Okay, this video today is to talk to you about a function that is very commonly used in Excel. That is the if function, often just called the if statement, like so, if. So for those of you that don't know what the if statement is, the if statement is one of many logical functions that you can use with inside Excel. And they're functions that basically can be used for very simple decision-making options. So to give you an example of how you'd use the if statement, why you'd use it, and why it's so commonly used, let's just take a look at this data that we have over here to the left. So the first thing I want to point out to you is if you look in column C, we've got, say, a set of sales amounts that have been earned from sales reps that are in column B. So here's the sales rep's name. Here are the amount that they've sold each month. Now, to make it interesting, let's go with this. This is how the sales reps get paid. So if they meet their sales bonus amount, which is, boom, $500, if that is the case, then they will then receive a bonus. The amount is 25% of the difference between however much they've sold and how much the cutoff is. So for example, this first person, Dina, right here, is going to make 25% of $17 in a bonus. Okay. So now we could figure this out just by using common sense, right? So Dina gets a bonus. Dan does not get a bonus. This one doesn't get a bonus. The next bonus is Vivian down in C7 right there. Okay. Now I could go through and do this by hand and just figure it out manually, right? But that is not efficient. That's not why we use Excel. That's not why we use computers, right? So here's the big deal with computers and especially Excel. And I hope that we've gotten a chance to know each other enough for me to tell you this. But if you haven't heard any other videos, let me say it again, that computers, just like cell phones, just like cars, just like Excel, they are tools. They are not meant to replace you. They are tools to help you be more efficient. Because like we've said a million times, the human brain is way more powerful than any computer could ever be. The only difference is the computers are simply fast. They're not smart. So here's the catch. If I were to go through and manually calculate this every month, well, the problem is next month, when the new sales values come in, I would then have to go through and recalculate this again. But that's not what we do in information systems. We are in the process of building systems. Systems that can take our logic that we have in our brains and apply it so we don't have to do it over and over again. So I want to build a system here that will take the information that I give it, the business goals, the key performance indicators, and then use those again so I don't have to continually calculate the bonus amount each month. That's what we want to do here. Okay, so now just to make it more interesting, right? Because old Davidson here is sneaky. Watch this. Take a look at the sales right here. Here's what I've done. Boop. Do you see me change this? Okay. Every time I make a change, what you'll see is the numbers are actually randomizing. Okay. Do you see it change? See them changing? So what I've done here is I've actually put a little function in the sales right here that is coming up with random integers. Okay. And that is then giving me the ability to simulate months of sales changing month to month. Okay. Now, why did I do this? I didn't do this to be sneaky. I did this to illustrate how powerful the if statement is, because it doesn't really matter what the number is. If you put the logic in place, then it will automatically calculate every time. So, for example, let's just look at this first person, Annalisa here. Now she doesn't get a bonus. Now she does. Now she doesn't. Okay, I understand that. And we can take what we have in our minds and translate that into Excel using the if statement. So let's talk about the if statement. Okay, the if statement is a logical function built inside Excel. The concept of if statements are very simple. They're kind of binary. They're yes, no statements. And they're actually pretty easy when you first start off using them. They can get much more complicated. But for now, we're going to do something easy. So just to illustrate, I'm going to pop up an if statement using the f of x box, using insert function. And I only do that once, usually when I'm teaching new functions, just so you can see it visually, the arguments that go into it. So the first thing you'll see is that the if function in Excel is a multiple argument function. Okay, it's a logical function and it has multiple arguments. The arguments are simple. It's the logical test, the value if true, and the value if false. Now, that's really confusing because that sounds like a lot of computer terms, right? Well, here's an easy way to get it. And I have so much confidence in you that I believe that every person understands how these work because we've been doing it so long, we just don't realize that it's something that can be translated into logic in a computer. So it goes like this. It's sort of like reading Rainbow. And I really hope you've heard of reading Rainbow, but if not, that's another thing. Every video I give you, I have something extra for you to do. So check out reading Rainbow. It's awesome. So it goes like this. In Excel, if you can say it, you can do it. So it goes like this. Okay. I would say if the value in cell C3 is greater than 500, then they receive a bonus. And if not, they do not receive a bonus. Okay. So that is all three of those things combined. So it goes like this. If the value in cell C3 is greater than 500, that is the logical test. That's what decides if they get the bonus or if they don't. Okay. Think of it like a light switch. Yes or no. Now, if they do receive the bonus, so if this statement is true, then we're going to do or give them whatever's in this column right here in the second argument. So if they do receive a bonus, this is where we say, yes, they get the bonus, or this is how much the bonus is. And if not, think of it like the lights off switch, right? Binary, 1, 0, on, off. If that's not the case, then in this case, they get nothing, okay? So logical test, value of true, value of false. Now, as you know from earlier in the semester, I don't really like using the insert function box. It slows you down. We like using IntelliSense much more, and I encourage you to practice doing that. So that's what I'm going to do right now. I'm going to open by hitting equals key, and I'm going to type if and tab, which is going to open up the if statement. So the first thing we know is we need to insert the logical test argument. And in this case, we're going to use those relative and absolute cell references that you read about in chapter 2 of your textbook, right? So we're going to check those out. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to say if the value in cell C3 is greater than. Now, I could say greater than or equal to, but before I go into that, let's talk about what that greater than sign is. Now, you've probably learned what that sign is way back in math when you were probably elementary school, okay? This is an operator. Specifically, this is a logical operator, okay? Now, if statements work on logical operators. It's that logic that lets the computer apply the logic that you've given it, okay? There are several logical operators that you can use with if statements in Excel. Now, these logical operators actually can be used for many logical functions in Excel, not just if statements. But since this is our very first function, let's just start with that. So the logical operators that you can use are greater than, less than, greater than or equal to, less than or equal to, and then this is the tricky one down here, right? See that one? That is actually not equal to. Okay, so I'll just leave this over here as a reference. Okay, so we're going to say if the value in C3 is greater than 500. Now, the reason I did greater than instead of greater than or equal to, it's because their bonus amount is only 25% of the difference. So if it's equal to 500, they'll still get no bonus. So there's no point in saying greater than or equal to. Okay. Now we are going to use the fill handle here to complete our column, which means that in order to make this work, we're going to need to hit F4 on our keyboard. Now by doing that, just like you've done in earlier projects, you have in a state made that $500 right here a constant, meaning that it cannot change when you use the fill handle to fill it down. So it will never change. This is now a constant. It's no longer a variable. It will always be that $500, okay? So if the value in cell C3 is greater than 500, well, if that's the case, do they get the bonus? Answer is yes. So if we want Excel to say a word, okay, we use double quotation marks. So notice for the third argument, for the value of true right here, I typed the word bonus, but I put the word bonus in double quotation marks. Now, if you think back to some of our prior lessons, you'll note that I've said several times that Excel doesn't really like words very much. Excel can't read. It doesn't really know what bonus means. Excel really just knows numbers. So that doesn't mean you can't make Excel say something like the word bonus or return a value that's alpha, that's a word. But in order to do that, you're going to need to put that word in double quotation marks. So all that says to Excel is, it doesn't matter what this is, just display it. So in this case, If the logical test is true, they receive a bonus. And if not, then it is not applicable. We close it off and look at that. Even though the numbers changed right here and Annalisa no longer gets a bonus, it changed with it. So now let's use our magical fill handle. And there we have it. Bonus, bonus, bonus. Now here's what's cool, right? So if I go over and I just make any kind of change, really, doesn't matter what, do you see the numbers change? So the numbers randomize and the logic is staying the same. So every month as you move forward, you can continue to keep that logic and you've saved yourself a ton of time. So now there's some takeaways from this that I want to make sure that you get before we finish this problem off. First takeaway, make sure that you use relative and absolute references whenever possible. If you use hard-coded numbers, right? So if I just typed in if 303 is greater than 500, would that work? Yes, but it defeats the purpose of using any kind of automation because it's no longer dynamic. Okay, if you're using words in the value of true or value of false, okay, like we did here. If you're using words in the value of true or value of false, make sure you put those in double quotation marks or it won't work. Here, watch what happens. If I take this out and then I fill this down, see where it says name? That's because it doesn't know what bonus means. It's a word and it doesn't know how to handle it. So if I put those double quotation marks back in, all of a sudden, I'm going to fill this back down. We're back in business, okay? So there we have it. Now, let's go ahead and finish this thing off here. So just to finish it off, to make sure you get this, and this is posted on Moodle for you to practice with. Let's go ahead and do one additional thing. Let's write another if statement, but what this time I want to do is I want to use another kind of operator, which actually is left off over here, which is simply equals, okay? And we're going to do it with words. Hey, did you notice that the names changed again? Okay, so our system's working. So this time we want to figure out what the actual bonus amount is, right? So here's what we're going to say. We're going to say if the bonus eligibility equals the actual word bonus, okay? So basically, if the value in cell D3 equals the word bonus. Now, that's usually where people get stuck. Does it matter that it's a word in the logical test? The answer is no. Yes, it's true that Excel really can't read, but keep in mind that Excel is not seeing words here. Excel, you see the word bonus, but what Excel is seeing is it's actually seeing ones and zeros, kind of like that movie The Matrix that I told you about. So all it knows is the ones and zeros that make up whatever that is, and the ones and zeros that make up whatever's in cell D3. So if those binary ones and zeros equal this binary 1 and 0, then the logical test is true. And if not, then the logical test is false. So in this particular case, how we do this, we take however much they've sold, okay, minus the cutoff amount, which, ooh, it's hard to get to that over there. So we're going to type that in manually. That's going to be G3, and we want that to be absolute, multiplied by 25%, which we also want to make absolute, okay? And then we're going to move forward. Now, a couple of things that I want to remind you of. Remember when you learned about order of operations back in 3rd, 4th grade? That has never changed. So the reason that I put C3 minus G3 in parentheses is because of that old My Dear Aunt Sally, right? If I didn't, it would multiply G3 times H3 and then do the subtraction, which is not what we want. Okay. Now, if they are not eligible for a bonus, then that means they get a big fat 0. Okay. We're going to close this off and voila, 0 value there. Okay. Now, in this particular case, it looks like everything's good. So we're going to fill this down. And there you have it. Now, you want to make this a little nicer. Let's make it currency. Want to go a step farther? Hey, we can use another trick. Let's do alt equals. And we can even add up what our total amount of bonus payouts are at the end. Oh, I was 1 cell off, wasn't I? Should have put it 1 cell down. That's no problem. But it's 274. There we go. 324 now because it's the numbers keep randomizing. So there you have it, if statements in Excel. Now, I know that you need to practice this. So please use the My IT practice problems, and I will also post this worksheet to Moodle for you to practice with as well. You can use this video as a sample solution. Also note that I have an additional business problem for you to try. Okay, try right here. And there are instructions on how to do that. If you have any questions, as always, please call me, email me, come by my office. Feel free to Skype me during virtual office hours. Look forward to seeing you back. You'll really like the next video. We're going to start talking about mortgages and car payments moving up soon. So practice up, and I'll talk to you soon.